Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian. I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction House and taking a look at some of the guns in their upcoming September of 2015 premiere auction. And I kind of have this ongoing desire to do a video on every version of the revolving long gun that I can get my hands on. And today I have another one, a particularly obscure and rare one. This is a Wesson and Leavitt revolving rifle. Now, like many of these early revolving rifles, this was actually based on an Army model revolver. In this case, a .40 caliber, no surprise, Wesson and Leavitt Dragoon revolver. Now, the reason that the carbines are particularly rare, some sources say they made 16, some sources say they made 20 to 50. In either case, they made very, very few of them. But the reason is they actually made very few of the revolvers as well. The revolver was introduced in 1850. And it was the subject of a lawsuit from the Colt company in 1851, very quickly thereafter. Turns out the revolver actually infringed on a number of Colt's patents. Now, most of the time when we hear revolver patent infringement, we think the Rowan White patent for the bored-through cylinder. This was different. Colt had a patent on some features like cocking the hammer being responsible for turning the cylinder. Cock the hammer, cylinder turns, that's a feature patented by Colt at this point. Now that patent would eventually expire, but when Wesson and Leavitt were producing this gun, Colt's patent was still in effect. So Colt was able to put these guns basically out of business. They were in fact infringing on Colt's patent. Wesson and Leavitt came back, they made a number of changes that frankly I would think made the guns far less desirable. They revised them so that you had to manually index the cylinder, and they also replaced the ignition system with a Maynard tape primer in order to avoid some primer-related or percussion cap-related patents of Colt's. So those two things together just, it let them get the guns legally back into production, but they were never very popular. So the rifle version kind of befell the same fate. They only made a handful of them before they were driven out of business for legal reasons. So why don't we take a closer look at this. There are some neat features to it, and well, we probably won't see another one like this for a while. Before we start, I should point out Wesson and Leavitt were in fact Edwin Wesson, who was the brother of Daniel Wesson, who was substantially more notable, and Daniel Leavitt. They designed these guns in the 1840s, and they did patent some features on them. They just also chose to ignore Colt's patents on some of the other features. So as far as practicality goes, the Wesson and Leavitt rifle doesn't really bring anything new to the table. It has the same kind of obvious problem that almost all revolving rifles did, in that you've got your cylinder gap up there, you have the potential for chain fire here, making it unwise to hold the gun by the barrel, so a shooter would have both hands back here by the trigger guard, which seems a little goofy to us. Sam Colt himself had done some experiments and found that putting a shield here to deflect, to protect the hand, actually had the unfortunate side effect of increasing the likelihood of chain fire. So I think that's the main reason why that wasn't done very often. Anyway, disassembly on these is actually kind of clever and interesting. What you do, we have a little button down here. If I push that button in, it releases, with two hands, it releases this hook, which I can then pivot up and out of the way. And now the barrel, so the barrel is held on by this hook and this screw. With that hook out of the way, I can pivot this whole thing open. Now, flip it over, put the hammer at full cock, and I can take the cylinder out. So, pretty simple, basic cylinder. Instead of having percussion caps on the rear, this does have them on the side. That was a style that was used in a number of revolvers. On the back, you'll notice the 6 holes here are for the cylinder lockup bolt, so that when you have the gun cocked and ready to fire, those hold the cylinder in the proper orientation. There is also this one oddball hole. That is because instead of having a typical lifter style of hand, the Wesson and Leavitt has an interesting rotating bolt to index the cylinder. So we can actually see that right here. Right there. This top one is the cylinder stop that holds the cylinder in position when you're ready to fire. This bottom one is the piece that rotates the cylinder. So, all right, I moved it around to the bottom. Now you can see when I cock the hammer, that bolt rotates. That would pull the cylinder in a rotational motion. Through the process of cocking the hammer, you'll notice that the cylinder stop retracts. That's to allow the cylinder to move. So that would be fired. Then right there, the stop bolt retracts, so now the cylinder is free to move. As I continue to pull the hammer back, this rotational bolt circles around the axis pin. That moves the cylinder to the next chamber. And then when the gun is at full cock, this stop comes back out to lock the cylinder in position. So that is how the Wesson & Leavitt revolver mechanism works. Reassembly is just as easy as disassembly. We're going to drop this on. We have the same spring-loaded detent here, holding the cylinder in position. Once it's on, I just rotate it around until, there we go, the rotation bolt lines up with the cylinder. Then I can close this. You'll notice there is a big lug here that locks through a slot in the axis. So that keeps everything lined up. And then close the hook, which just snaps into place right there. The gun is now reassembled and ready to use. This would have come with a loading tool separate. You would take the cylinder out to reload it in the case of this particular firearm, rather than have a loading ramrod attached to the gun. Like the Dragoon revolver that these were based on, these were manufactured by the Massachusetts Arms Company, and they are in .40 caliber. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. There were so few of these made, I wanted to take the opportunity to grab this one and get a close look at it while it was here. If you'd like to have it yourself, put it up on the wall, and always have access to check it out, well, take a look at the link in the description below. That'll take you to Rock Island's catalog page on this particular revolving rifle. And if you like what you see, go ahead and place a bid for it online, or come down here to the auction house and participate in person. Thanks for watching.